To people in many parts of industrial Britain, this is an old familiar bit of the landscape, the local canal. It's been there as long as they can remember. It's bound up with the history of the district. But many people also think of the canal as a quiet backwater which time and change have now completely bypassed, an outmoded relic of the Industrial Revolution. But how far is this a correct assessment of Britain's inland waterways today? It's true that the lifeblood of industrial Britain flows in the main along two great arterial systems, its roads and its railways. High-speed motorways are now being built to cope with the increase in road traffic. There's keener competition than ever from a rapidly transforming British railway system with its express freight services. The question is, have these modern transport methods superseded waterborne traffic to the point where the canal no longer counts? Well, I've been looking into this subject of the canals, and the answer to that question is that they do count, and in a very big way, far more than many people think. There are 1,400 miles of inland waterways, and they provide Britain with a third transport system. The canals carry more than 10 million tons of cargo a year. Now, this map, for example, shows the way in which a network of British waterways converge from the northwest, the northeast, the southeast, and the southwest on the Midlands. Now, this network of canals feeds raw materials from the seaports in, for example, Merseyside, the Humber, the Thames, and the Bristol Channel, right into the heart of industrial Britain. This is just part of a great waterborne operation which serves not only the Midlands, of course, but most industrial areas throughout the country. But let's take a look in detail at the southwestern division of British waterways. Now, I'm beginning this report from Avonmouth, where ships from most parts of the world discharge their cargoes. First of all, a quick check on the route of the waterway. Up the Bristol Channel to Sharpness, then 16 miles of ship canal to Gloucester, then the River Severn up to Worcester and Stourport. The Sundew has just arrived from Kitimat in British Columbia. Part of the cargo is aluminium for automobile factories in the Midlands. It has to be offloaded over the side and into barges. The man responsible for keeping the job flowing is Bob Slade, the senior foreman for British Waterways at Avonmouth. Now then, Mr. Slade, exactly what is your job?
Well, I have to see that I have the correct barges here at the correct time to receive the cargo.
Well, that sounds delightfully simple, but I know it's far more complex than that.
Oh, yes, it is. Take this ship, for instance, the Sungate. Now, I heard just over a fortnight ago that she was due here from Kitimat with about 2,700 ton of aluminium, of which most was for me. Now, having found that out, I then contacted the agencies concerned and the Port of Bristol Authority and followed the ship as she neared England. And until about 3 days ago, when we had the actual estimated time of arrival, which is today, and we also had the ship's papers and plans from which we could work.
But how do you get these papers in advance of the arrival of the ship?
Well, these are flown over in advance of the ship by air, and from them we can find out what we want and commence our work.
Well, which is the most important of these documents from your point of view?
Well, this one, actually. It's the storage plan of the ship concerned, and it shows you everything that's in the ship and where in the ship it is.
Right, once you've studied that, what's the next step?
Well, then having seen where where my stuff is in this ship, I can then make arrangements to have our barges here, as you see they are here now today for work.
Because that in itself is a very complicated job, because you've got your fleet of barges spread out right up and down the whole of the waterway.
Oh yes, but I work with the Gloucester office, and having found out all I need to know from these papers, I then contact the Gloucester office, and we arrange to have the barges empty that I need down here for today.
What sort of cargoes come through Avonmouth?
Well, various cargoes. We get lots of aluminium, lots of zinc, copper, Bibles, cigars.
Bibles and cigars, not the real thing.
No, they're different shapes of copper.
What quantities of cargo can you load from the ship over the side into the barges in the course of a day?
Well, that varies according to the commodity. What we have done is much of 1,000 tons.
1,000 tons?
A day, yes.
The general condition of all consignments is checked on arrival at Avonmouth, and any damage is reported back to the shipper. But British Waterways provide many services for importers. Now, one of them is the fumigation of dried fruits such as dates and sultanas. All consignments of dried fruits are liable to become breeding grounds for pests, but fumigation kills the pests without harming the fruit. If these consignments were being delivered by road or rail, they'd have to be sent to a special fumigation center. This would mean double handling. As it is, the whole job can be done effectively in one operation in the same barges which transport the fruit up the waterway. Now, this is the point where preconceived notions about canals begin to break down. And from the very moment you set foot on Primrose, you have the feeling that this is a real shipping proposition, not something that went out with horses and carts. This feeling is heightened as Primrose moves down the dock basin, picks up her barges, and then jockeys for position with other craft which are waiting to go out on the evening tide, all of them bound for Sharpness and the Ship Canal. Some of these are British Waterways vessels. Others are private carriers. Many of the craft are oil tankers. And now Primrose is through the lock gates. She heads out up the Bristol Channel, towing a string of barges laden with aluminium, zinc, timber, and dried fruit. Primrose and her charges are in the capable hands of skipper Frank Savage. Nothing like a good cover, Frank.
Oh,
How long have you been in tugs, Frank?
over 33 years.
How did you start?
I started as a boy, and then I went to mate, and I finally became the captain and skipper.
Well, I bet you've served under some very hard tug masters in your time, haven't you, Frank?
Oh yes, probably the most toughest was my grandfather.
Was your father a tug master as well?
Yes, my father was a tugman as well.
So it runs in the family?
Oh, yes.
Frank, I've never been on a tug before, but I've always thought I'd like to handle the wheel. Would it bust regulations if I had a go?
No, certainly not. You have a go.
Okay, you'll have to watch me.
Yes. Yeah. She's all right like she is.
Yeah. By Joe, there's more play on it than I thought.
Yes, yes.
Uh-huh. You know, Frank, I always think that being a tugmaster on an estuary like this must be one of the toughest and trickiest jobs there is.
Oh, it is certainly, but the job's all right if it's done properly and done in the proper manner.
Well, now, if I were learning with you as a boy, what are some of the things I'd have to watch out for?
Well, you've got the chutes. You must look out for that.
Now, what are the chutes?
Well, it's a tricky problem where a lot of tides congregate into one and it causes a rapid tide.
And what happens if you get into one of those chutes?
Well, it's so many whirlpools and different tides that you can break a drift from your toe.
Whirlpools, Frank. I think you'd better take over the wheel again.
Certainly.
You've just changed course, Frank. Why?
Well, the channel don't run straight, you see. It runs zigzag across the river. Backwards and forwards across the river.
But what are you steering by?
Marks on the shore.
But if it's misty or foggy and you can't see the marks on the shore, what do you do then?
Or you have to steer by compass.
But what about night time?
Well, no, we have flashing lights on the shore, you see.
So, in other words, you've really got to know this channel like the back of your hand.
Oh, yes, yes, you must do that.
That's why 33 years as a tugman comes in.
Yes, yes.
That's sharpness over there, isn't it, Frank?
Yes, that's sharpness.
But why are you beginning to turn now as though you're going into the dock?
Oh, you have to turn the toe here to wait for the right moment to dock at sharpness.
That's because of the tide, is it?
Yes.
I said, now let me see if I've got this right, if I've understood it. The tide is coming up.
Yes, the tide's at the flood tide.
Yes, and you don't want to be swept past with all the barges past the dock entrance.
No,
so
I mustn't be swept by sharpness.
So you turn round and you fight your way down against the tide.
That's the tide.
And then you just wait for the right moment to go into the harbour entrance.
That's quite right, yes.
This is real seamanship, Frank. I'm going to enjoy watching this. And with consummate skill born of those years of experience, Frank Savage cons Primrose against the racing current. Now, this is superb seamanship, a thrill to watch. Barges are strung out behind Primrose in a taut line as she inches almost broadside on towards the entrance to the Sharpness docks. All the time she's battling for position. Then a sudden spin of the wheel and she swings round and heads in between the two arms of the breakwater, the barges slewing obediently into line behind her. A few minutes later, Primrose and her charges are moored in the calm waters of the basin, and I'm being shown round the Sharpness docks by the superintendent, Mr. Jack Bradley. This looks like a full-size port, Mr. Bradley. What sort of ships do you handle through here?
Well, you're so right in calling this a full-size port, Mr. Reid, because we deal with ocean-going ships with a carrying capacity up to 8,000 tons dead weight.
Real sea-going stuff?
Absolutely.
Well, what dock facilities have you for them?
Well, now we have 14 berths, and we have 8 modern electric cranes.
8? Now, what sort of tonnage do they lift?
Oh, 3 tons.
3 tons, but that's not a 3-tonner, that giant over there.
Oh, no, you're referring to what we call jumbo. As a matter of fact, that's a crane for lifting the heavier weights out of vessels, and also dealing with the lifting of yachts to and from water.
And the ones that go up in the canal and the River Severn?
That's right.
Now, what about these big buildings across the water? Are those grain silos?
The grain silos and grain warehouses with a capability of storing some 2 million bushels.
2 million bushels. Well, that's grain. What about other sorts of cargoes?
Well, now, we deal with timber, we deal with fruit, We deal with the potatoes, apple pumice.
What's apple pumice? I've never heard of it.
No, well, now, apple pumice is the result of an apple after all the juice is extracted.
And what's it used for?
Well, we import it from France, and it's used for the making of jam.
Well, I'm always learning something. Now, what about the timber, these stands here? Are they sent up the river?
Yes, about a third, I should say, go overside up the river to Gloucester and to points on the River Severn and to the industrial Midlands.
Well, I shall be seeing some of it on my way up because Gloucester's my next port of call.
Did you get the snapshots you wanted?
We'll have to wait and see. I'm no cameraman, you know. Just let me get this fixed, then we'll get a chat. There we are. Now, Mr. Freeman, you're in charge of the British Waterways fleet down here. What is the fleet composed of?
Well, we've 46 craft altogether. Mixture of tugs, dumb barges,
Dumb barges?
and motor vessels.
What are dumb barges?
They're the ones like the engines.
I ought to have known that.
Yes, we tow them with our tugs, but of course we also tow by-trader craft as well.
What cargoes do your vessels carry?
Our particular fleet is engaged wholly and solely in the carriage of general cargoes from channel ports to the industrial Midlands.
Well, what about these private carriers?
Well, in this particular section, they fall very largely into two categories. There's the petroleum carrier with petrol, kerosene, oil, gas oil, and so on. And on the other hand, they're the millers carrying grain from the channel ports again to their own mills at Gloucester Docks and at Tewkesbury.
What sort of charges do they have to pay, these private carriers?
The usual charges for the waterway as a track. There's the dues on the goods, dues on the vessels, and of course if we give additional services such as towing, then we make an extra charge for that.
Okay. So quite a considerable proportion of the traffic on the canal is carried by private carriers?
Very, very considerable proportion.
Now, are these private carriers increasing their fleets?
Yes, very much so, particularly on the petroleum side. Over the last few years, the numbers of craft have increased very considerably.
There's one thing I've noticed, Mr. Freeman, all the cargo seem to be coming up towards Gloucester and nothing going down. Isn't there any outward bound trade at all?
Well, of course, you've hit on our problem. It's not a new problem, it's always been with us.
But why is it a problem?
Well, largely because the channel ports that we principally serve are not liner ports. There aren't regular services on a given day in a given ship. And generally speaking, the importer likes to feel that his cargo is going for a particular ship on a particular day. It's a real problem, but we are doing a very great deal towards trying to solve it.
Well, what are you doing?
Well, we've been pressing the port end, pressing the exporter's end, and just recently, a new development, we've started our own little arrangements, if you like. We have just managed to achieve the export of cars from Gloucester Docks to Ireland. So something will be going the other way.
Yes, but you've a great deal to do yet before you get that outward traffic
Very much
flowing.
so, very much so.
Another thing's occurred to me, Mr. Freeman. Now, do the waterways own the land on either side of what you call the track?
Well, for much of the length, of course, it's simply a narrow strip on either side. But from place to place, we do own much larger tracts of land.
But couldn't these sites be developed, say, for, warehouses or factories, something like that?
Of course, many have. There are many waterside development sites, but we are very, very keen to offer land for development for waterway users.
Yes, but you've got to do a lot more on this as well, haven't you?
Oh, there's a lot of land left.
Well, look, I'd like to have a look at the canal upwards from the bows. Can we go up there?
Please, be careful. All right. There's one of our craft ahead, the Severn side.
Oh, yes.
Bound for Worcester.
You know, Mr. Freeman, I don't the slightest idea the canal was so wide. What size of vessels does it take?
500 to 600 ton type of thing, you know, the coaster sort. We've had them from France, the Netherlands, Belgium, Holland, Poland, and as far away as Italy. Right up into Gloucester Docks.
At Gloucester, deep in the heart of England, it's certainly a surprise to find a port big enough to take ocean-going shipping. Over the past 10 years, the port of Gloucester has become increasingly busy. Instead of 3 ships a year, there are now 3 ships a week, and not counting the vessels of the British Waterways fleet. There are 3 docks with 14 acres of water. There's plenty of warehouse accommodation. There's also a silo with facilities for drying grain. Travelling cranes speed up the loading and the discharge of cargoes, and such things as watering and bunkering facilities are available. There's also a very well-equipped engineering and repair shop. It's managed by Mr. Maurice Woodman, who told me about some of the jobs they tackle. Well, you've got quite a range of machinery here, Mr. Woodman. Now, what's the purpose of this workshop?
Well, we maintain all our own craft, some 90 of them, consisting of dumb barges and motor barges and dredgers, and of course quite a lot of small engineering craft that would be found on a waterway such as this.
I noticed a navigational buoy on one of the walls. Do you look after those as well?
Oh yes, they come in from time to time from the channel for overall, and also we do overalls to the lights as well.
Those were some of the things I saw coming up from Avonmouth.
Quite, yes, yes.
Are there any special docking facilities for ships sailing into Gloucester?
Well, the dry docking facilities, we've got 2, the largest of which will take a ship 160 foot in length and approximately 10 foot draft.
What do they go into dry dock for?
Hull repairs, tail shaft renewals, steering repairs, and annual Lloyd's overhauls.
Do you have any divers here?
Oh yes, we are fitted out with divers and their equipment, diving launch, etc.
Now, do you have any special types of work that you do here?
Yes, we do. 1 or 2 of our larger jobs have been the single-span bridges down the canal.
Well, this is civil engineering work.
Oh, well, we make up the steel bridge, some 70 feet in length and 12-foot carriageway, and put it together in the shop here, and then it's transported in pieces down onto the site for the civil engineering to take over.
Now, I saw some work going on near one of the lock gates. Have you got a hand in that?
Yes, we're making the bits and pieces for mechanisation of the locks in the river.
Is that electrification?
Yes, yes. We're just making the rods and the connections onto our gates.
But what about marine jobs? What are the biggest jobs you tackle there?
Well, we do all our engine overhauls and hull repairs, and also we have done some 4 conversions of our tugs from steam to diesel.
Are there any special advantages converting to diesels for a waterway of this sort?
Oh yes, apart from being more economical, they're far more manoeuvrable in a river like the Severn, as you'll see on the next stage of your journey to Worcester.
In its own way, I think this river trip is every bit as lovely and as entrancing as the journey down the Rhine or the Danube. As you sail along, you see the English countryside from a new angle. A moving panorama of wooded hills and rolling meadowlands. Occasional glimpses of Tudor England. Majestic parklands. Here and there, a sandy beach and people bathing. A village sleeping in the sun. And in the distance, the towers and the spires of some English town. At Worcester, there's even a do-it-yourself dry dock for the amateur sailor who likes to tinker about with his own boat and do his own repair jobs. Many thousands of people are now falling for the enchantment of waterways like this, as a welcome break from the more conventional ideas of holidays and pastimes. For as little as £8 a year, the yachtsman can have the freedom of 1,400 miles of British waterways. No manhandling is necessary. There are launching cranes. There are special facilities such as petrol points and water points. But to get back to the purely commercial aspect of British waterways, they also offer the industrialist a valuable storage service, and supplies can be delivered to the factories in British Waterways' own trucks. For factories in the Midlands, where every foot of floor space is required for production purposes, the storage of raw materials at Worcester means a very great saving. But this is not the end of the waterway. There is a narrow canal link from Worcester right up into the heart of Birmingham. Now, the storage facility is just one of a number of special services offered to industrialists. I went more fully into this subject with the manager of the Southwestern Division, Mr. G.H. Hughes. British Waterways make rather a point of these special services. Now, what sort of things do they include, Mr. Hughes?
Well, supposing we start at the port, Avonmouth or Sharpness, there we do all the customs clearance, customs documents, custom payments, and we can also do the staggered deliveries for any customer. For instance, if a man buys in bulk, he doesn't want it dumped onto his doorstep and all in one go, so we can do the staggered deliveries just to his requirements.
In other words, you act as an agent.
Yes, for instance, if you take valuable metals like copper, this is delivered into our Midland warehouses where it's stored on behalf of the Metal Exchange, and we're empowered by them to issue negotiable documents giving all the certified weights down to ounces, which can be dealt with by any bank.
One thing that has surprised me, the number of foreign vessels I've seen on the waterway. I saw a Turkish vessel, I think, just before I came in to see it, had the crescent flag on the stern. Do you have lots of these vessels up here?
Well, that's quite true. Not only Turkey, we have them from all over the place. We have them from Scandinavia, Russia, all the continental ports, even from the Great Lakes.
From Canada?
From Canada. They bring grain into the large sail you've probably seen at Sharpness when you're down there.
But this is world trade. I mean, this isn't just a matter of local carrying on local canals.
Oh, no, I agree.
And this, of course, is all the more important when you have developments on the continent as well, like the common market and the free trade route.
That's one of the things we're looking at now. We're trying to foster exports to utilize these ships that are here almost in the heart of England.
Yes. Now, these are all, of course, developments for the future which are gradually building up. But I suppose in the meantime, you are looking after all the old traditional lines that the waterways have always carried.
Oh, yes, particularly coal, where we carry thousands of tons per week from the collieries to power stations. On top of that, we also have to carry, and do carry, a lot of foodstuff, fertilizer, etc. on the narrow canals.
Mm-hmm. If I had some goods to send up to the Midlands, why should I send them by waterway?
Well, it all depends on what you're buying. But if you send them by waterways, firstly, it's one operation that goes through a sort of a pipeline, and in consequence, nothing gets lost. We know where they are at any one time. And secondly, if they're bought in bulk, you needn't have them in bulk. We can deliver them as you require them. In other words, we can come part and parcel of your production line.
Now, you've been in different branches of transport all your life. You're an all-rounder. Do you think that the waterways can compete as a third transport system in this country?
Of course I do. With the facilities we have and can offer, such as all the storage facilities, handling facilities, road, rail and water transport, we're here to give and can give a full and comprehensive service to any customer.
Well, to sum up, now it seems to me that there are two important points about these inland waterways. The first is that over the course of the years, the nation as a whole has ceased to think of them as a major method of transport. Well, I suppose that's only natural because we've been conditioned, almost bludgeoned into accepting the idea of the railways and the roads as the only systems of surface transport for this modern age. But as commercial and general industrial traffic increases, congestion piles up both on the roads and the railways. What's more, it's likely to continue. What then is the solution? Well, we might think of a very obvious alternative, just siphoning off a proportion of that road and rail traffic and sending it by water instead. Because here, the country has a third transport alternative ready-made. But how many businessmen even bother to go into the economics of waterborne transport? How many of them just dismiss the canals as something archaic? Well, as this report has shown, there are exceptions, many exceptions. The motor manufacturing industry, for example, is one of them. And if that very go-ahead industry uses waterborne transport, I can only assume that they do it for one very good reason. They've discovered that it pays to use the waterways of Britain.